Welcome back, book carriers. We are back again with a new episode. It is a new month. It is a new book, and it's time to get going. So, of course, this episode and this month, our book pick is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. And of course, if you listened to our last episode, then you already heard all of the fun facts about Abby Jimenez and how ready we were to read this. And by we, I mean me and my beautiful co-hosts, Angela and Cassandra. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So Abby Jimenez is one of my all-time favorite authors. So I was super pumped to have the girls read one of these books because this is their first Abby Jimenez. I know we mentioned that.
Yep.
Shout out to our last episode. But
Our first Abby Jimenez, but our first contemporary romance period for me and Cassandra.
yes.
So.
Yeah. So that it was a whole brand new world for both of you. So that was probably exciting. I'm excited to hear your thoughts and how it landed for you guys. Cassandra, I feel like I do this every episode. I'm like, Cassandra, I already know that you loved it, but I'm so curious, Angela, to know what your thoughts are. I feel like I do this every single episode. But, you know, Abby Jimenez, she's known for her humor. She's known for weaving in contemporary references to books, but also weaving in some really deep and hard topics. So I feel like she's unique in that way, and she does contemporary romance justice. I think that she is just absolutely fabulous at her craft. And for those that may have read this book whenever it first came out, just a quick little reminder of what this book is about. So this is about Samantha and Xavier. Samantha is the marketing guru. She works for a mustard company, which I think is hilarious. Like, who thinks of this kind of stuff?
Yeah,
you know?
such an obscure specific thing.
yes. And so Samantha works for a mustard company and Xavier is a vet. And it's a very, you know, black cat, golden retriever dynamic. It is kind of an insta love, but it deals with long distance and then deals with a very heavy topic of dementia and a young child caregiving for their mother or father that has dementia. So that's kind of a just little quick synopsis of the book. But I want to hear y'all's first impressions of the characters, first impressions of the genre. What are y'all's thoughts?
I think my first impressions was, oh, Becca is going to love this book and she's going to eat it right up.
Yes.
Specifically for Xavier. And he's a vet and he's a dog lover. And I think I texted you all this. I was like, Becca, like even some of the things that Xavier had said, I'm pretty sure you've said it. Like the bit about, you can tell a lot about a person with the way they treat their pets. And I feel like you've said that before, Becca, or you've said something like that. And I'm like, oh, this is the perfect book boyfriend for Becca.
I literally have a tab on that page. Like y'all, like my tabs in this book were crazy. I have a tab on that exact page. And I think my exact words were, oh, the animal awareness. That's what I wrote on my sticky note. And you know, Abby Jimenez herself is a huge dog lover. She is like has self-proclaimed TikTok famous dogs. Like she posts about them all the time. So it's very authentic, her love for these dogs and these animals and pets. So yes, but you are totally right. I think I text the group and I was like, I am dying. This is amazing. Xavier is going to be hard to beat in future book boyfriend realm. So
Yes.
No, I love that you mentioned that about Abby, because I think she did capture like the all of the thoughts and the feelings around like being a dog owner, and I think it was perfectly written.
Oh, Xavier. I could go on and on and on. But Cassandra, what were your thoughts? Give me like one word first impressions.
I was going to say, you know, if I had to choose one word to describe these characters, you know, really put in some thought here. One word, immediate first impression. Xavier.
What's the one?
Just okay. So Xavier, love him. I get workaholic vibes because there was the part where he said, you know, I remember this where he would skip lunch and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's a workaholic for sure. I love the fact that he's a vet. I think that is so endearing, and just like the idea of that, of, you know, a meet cute where we have the girly going to the vet and you see this super hot vet who's like really reserved. That is everything. That would be like,
Yes.
that's a dream. Okay.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's like one of those things where it's like, it's realistic, but it would never happen probably. But it seems so realistic. Yeah. It's like, oh, I just met them at the clinic. I gotta go to bed, guys.
Cassandra, we're like 5 minutes into the record.
We made it out of the intro.
So this is very clearly contemporary, very clearly like this could happen this year kind of thing. Everything about like our actual lives and like putting it into like this book, like the whole resand, Akatar, mentioning all of like the lingo. I was honestly, I don't know, I enjoyed it.
I was gonna ask what y'all thought of that, about them making those Akatar references, since y'all are Akatar readers, Akatar girlies. What did y'all think of that reference? Did you enjoy it, or was it like cringe?
I loved it. I mean, I have mixed emotions based on the book and the writing style, but this is contemporary romance. This is supposed to read like it's happening today. It's not supposed to be set in like 1800s England. It's not a fantasy world, in a world where Akatar doesn't exist. Like, no, this is supposed to read like this is your best friend in today's time. And so it makes it so relatable. And I saw so many TikToks of that's why some people didn't like it. And I'm like, okay, but that's the genre. Like, if you don't like pop culture references, if you don't like the way that this book reads, then you don't like contemporary romance. And that's fine. But then that's not a genre for you. But don't critique it as if it's not supposed to be there. Then just don't read that genre.
Yeah. And so I think that's interesting, because I can see their point of view. I think it was super jarring for me at first to get into the wait, this is a contemporary romance, because I feel like references like those, when I was like in playwriting class, we were always told to like be careful referencing things now because it dates your work. Right. Well, this is that. This is, you want to date it. You want it to be contemporary and fresh. Yes. And so to me, it was like a little cliche at first. That's how I felt about it. But once I accepted that and understood that, everything changed. But I definitely understand the love for contemporary romance. It's so comfortable and comforting.
And I know, like we've said before too, like how we can read a book and we feel like it's reading like a movie or it's reading like a show. And this does read, in terms of the dialogue and the references, it does read like almost like a Netflix movie. You know, it has like those pop culture references and things like that. But that's the style that she's always written. This is how all of her books are.
Well, see,
so
and I think that's why
shocking.
I think that's why I was confused, just because this is the first one. It's the first contemporary romance I've read. Right. And two, this is my first Abby Jimenez book. So this is my very first impression of her writing style. And after, you know, reading the entire thing, it's love it. Love it.
Yeah. So would both of y'all read another contemporary romance?
I think that's getting into like our final question.
Yes, yeah. We won't go too deep into that question. But let's get into a little bit about the characters, specifically Samantha and Xavier, and their chemistry as a couple, because it happens so fast. I feel like there's not any miscommunication beforehand. There's not any whatever. It's just, they just instantly, I think, are just drawn and just love each other. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about kind of what your thoughts are on Xavier and Samantha.
Can I say something that is super refreshing about this couple?
Yeah.
I just love that they are like middle-aged. Well, she's 29. It's like 29, 28, right?
She's 28, he's 29.
I love that. To me, that's refreshing. We're not writing, you know, teenagers and giving them adult lifestyles and storylines. It goes with the contemporary realistic, right? So I really like that element of their relationship. It was just so believable. Like, this could definitely happen.
Yeah, it fits into like the stage of life that they're in. Like they
Yes.
have established careers, and the whole Samantha's storyline around her family, like aging parents. So yeah, I think I that was also very refreshing for me to read.
Yes. Yeah. I saw some like reviews, and you can tell that the booktuber or the TikToker, they're younger and they didn't like, like that stage. But for us, I mean, we're aging ourselves. We're a few years older than, 28, 29, but, we're in that same area, that same little box. And so, I think that yes, I completely agree. And, so many times whenever you're reading like romantasy, the girl's always like 18, right? I mean, um, or, and then the like Binding 13, Shannon was in, high school, so it was so nice to read something. And Abby Jimenez, that's pretty much like all of her books, they're about that age.
Hmm.
And I think, and Emily Henry also. And so I think maybe that's why I'm drawn to them also, because you're reading about people that are in the same stage of life or close to it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense too for like how fast the relationship goes and how quickly they realize this is my person. Because you're to assume that by now they've probably already dated, and they'd even even talk about some of their past relationships and how, they have a type and stuff, and it's like, well, it makes sense, and I love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that point. I'm so thankful you brought that up, Cassandra. Yeah, you're so right. Yes, because this was also the first book that I read that has like insta love, where they just like immediately fall for each other, and it's like from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And when I have to be honest, like when I was first reading it, I was like, oh, like we're already there. Like what? We already love each other. Like basically, we're already like head over heels for each other. And so it was jarring for me. And I didn't like it at first, but
Yep.
so I'm definitely at my core, I'm more like a slow burn person. Like I think I would prefer that over insta love, but I think that's refreshing to hear what you just said, Cassandra, because that makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, they've already had other partners or other dating experiences, and the stage of life that they're in also makes sense, like why they would be ready to like settle with their person, and not have to wait or like play games or whatever it is. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yes. And I feel like Abby Jimenez does it so well, where she has their characters like fall in love, and it's not the miscommunication or even like the enemies to lovers that keeps them apart. It's just real life things that people deal with. And she just does it so well, because insta love is not my favorite trope by any means. And it's for me, like, as even like thinking about being a writer, it's like I wouldn't even know where, like, how to fill a book after they already kind of fall in love. But she does, and she does it beautifully. And I think I think maybe that's probably why she chooses to write characters around that age, because of that, because they can be more settled. They've learned, they're not as easy to fall into miscommunication traps and things like that. So yeah, so that's a great point for sure.
Yeah. And then it's like, it's insta love, but the tension builds also super quick. After you find out after their date that Miss Ma'am is leaving. Like,
yes,
she is not going to stick around much longer. So I think she does it perfectly. I think she built it so perfectly. I was on that same track, Angela. I was like, okay, really? They're already in love with each other, even though, to be fair, like if I was Samantha, I would be locked in for sure.
Yeah.
After their date, Mr. Veterinarian, yeah, okay, sign me up. I would totally be insta love as well. But it's just so brilliant the way she just like quickly on a dime introduced the main conflict and how that was going to play into the love story and build so much tension, the long distance relationship. So good.
I loved the scene of whenever they, we'll go back to like the date, right? Like the amazing date that kind of catapulted them to realize that they couldn't stay away from each other. But just jumping ahead a little bit, but the scene where they go back to her apartment and she's like rushing because they were locked in for forever, right? And so she has to get to the airport, and he walks in, and like that pit in his stomach whenever he realizes, like, oh, you're not just going out of town, like like, where's all your furniture? Where's all your stuff? And she's like running around trying to get whatever. She's like, hey, like, lay on the air mattress for me, or like try to, get whatever.
Yeah.
And she runs out, like, plops down on it to get, and she's like all rushing and stuff. And he's like just sitting there in the realization, like, I'm about to lose my soulmate. Like, she's leaving.
Yeah.
And that, it was heartbreaking. And we were only like 20 pages into the book, or,
I
whatever it was.
know.
And so it was like, man, like,
Yeah,
she just
and he's
wrote
like,
it so well.
yeah, it was perfect. He was like, okay, well, what now? Where do we go from here? And she's like, well,
Right.
now
You'll forget me.
Ah, say you'll remember me.
Standing on the front.
Oh my goodness. Oh, to be a
Yes.
girl. I loved it. Yeah.
You are a girl, Cassandra.
And I love it. I was in my girly feels for sure.
Yes.
This book has had me kicking my feet, blushing.
Oh my gosh.
So much.
I think one of my tabs that I did was when he showed up to her apartment, and like, cause he thought she was just going out of town, but he brought her a succulent.
Oh,
See, like, so she was like, oh, so you brought me like something that I wouldn't have to like take care of while I was gone. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I immediately was like, I love this man. Like,
Yeah.
I love this man. But that's
you
one
get
of the
me.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just so sweet.
Yeah.
But I just feel like her just writing that scene, like the first date scene, was just everything. I feel like from the cruise ship with the dogs, like the respect that he has in that field, and then going to, and like him not wanting to like let her go. He was like, okay, well, let's go find something else to do. And it was just like, he didn't want it to end, she didn't want it to end. And it was just Cassandra, what do you
Well, you talked about the cruise ship, but you didn't talk about him taking off his shirt and jumping in the water for her phone.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Are you
How
joking
could I
me?
forget?
He like this the whole way, the entire scene, the entire date. He was perfect without even trying. Okay, he didn't even have to try. Like,
Yeah.
it was just flawless. The dogs loved him. He didn't even let her get in that water. He was like, no, ma'am, you're not going to do it. I was like, yes, this is the guy. This is it. I'm sold.
This is the golden retriever behavior.
I love a no nonsense man. I love it. Like, this is how I feel. There's no questions. There's no games. The way he took care of her, protected her. And she even talks about it too, about how when she was with him, that she could let her guard down a little bit.
Yes.
And that was nice.
Yeah. I love a like lead male that doesn't get embarrassed by what other people think. Like, that's like, and I think that's what I look for, like, just in people to anyway. Like, I feel like just that, like he didn't care that he was jumping in or whatever. He just, as long as she didn't have to, he didn't care.
Yeah, he was always so ready to like jump into action, like throughout the whole storyline. And so, yeah, that's very sweet and endearing.
So sweet.
Yes. Let's talk about Samantha a little bit. How did we like her?
No, I'm just kidding. I love her.
How did we like her as a main character? Did we connect with her at all? What were like your favorite kind of attributes about her?
I just loved that she was just so funny, just naturally funny. And Xavier loved that too. Like, she could crack him up, and he just had this like stone cold face, but that she was making him laugh and pushing his buttons. I loved that. Yeah,
I did too. I thought that she reminded me so much of. Did either of y'all ever watch Gilmore Girls? Were y'all Gilmore Girls girlies?
Yeah.
Samantha gives me Lorelai Gilmore vibes in like her delivery of her wittiness, and how like Luke, who is the love interest in Gilmore Girls, spoiler for those that haven't watched it, spoiler for Angela, you find out like in the first episode, so it's fine. But like Luke is he is like that, like stone faced, like kind of hard to whatever, but Lorelai just keeps like kind of poking at him. She's just funny. And that's really why he loves her, I think, is because it's like what annoys him, but also what makes her love him. And so I think that even though it never seem to annoy Xavier, but I think that she brought just this like sunshine to, a world of his. And I think she mentions it several times, like the color and the gray. And I think that for
I
him,
loved
she
that.
was the color in his gray world. And so I think that that's just, I loved her as the main character. Watching her go through becoming a caregiver for her mom, and moving back home and just doing whatever she could to be there for her. As somebody who's done that myself with my mom, it's just like, I just loved everything about it. I loved the rawness that was shown of going through something like that. And I think that Samantha's character just did it really well. I think Abby Jimenez did that subject justice through Samantha. So
yeah, you can tell she's like an advocate in so many ways, starting with the cat and, being so relentless and so headstrong about like, what? Like, no, I'm not going to put this cat down. Like, I'm going to raise the money. Like, watch me do it. And so that determination shows up like in the whole story for her.
Oh, it was amazing. There were so many things. I have like so many notes, like I don't even know where to organize them in like my outline that I have already written out, but I don't want to not say them. So I'm going to just throw them out there right now.
Yes.
Because like the scene where the pug is overheating in the car and he like breaks in or whatever and all that. Again, like my hero, but my family had a pug growing up that died from heat exhaustion. So like reading that, I was just like, oh my gosh, like there's a pug and it's about to overheat. Like it's just like there were so many things that were just that I know that I just took so personally. Like I had personal memories of things like this that mean that she's writing just to the everyday girl. Like this was just so relatable. Everybody probably has a story of something like that they can relate it to. The other part was whenever she wrote about the lunch memory. And on page 204, it says, I remembered all the times Mom would come surprise me at grade school with lunch from some fast food place I liked. I'd be glowing the whole rest of the day. I'd loved when she stepped into my little world, sit with me at my long lunch table and talk to my friends. After we'd eaten, I'd walk her down the hall and show her the artwork I'd done hanging on the walls. I felt so proud to show her off. I think it was a little like that for Xavier. And it's like, I remember, like, everybody probably remembers, like their parents showing up with fast food, and it was just the best day. And my mom only worked half days on Fridays, so it was every Friday she would come and she would sometimes eat the school lunch with me, or she'd bring me lunch. And it was like reading that, it's just like sometimes these things that were said and written, it would like take my breath away, because I couldn't believe how like easy of a thing it was to write in there, but it meant so much and it felt like so deeply in me that I was like, this book for me was just full of things like that. And so it's just, man, I just loved it's like the nostalgic and I think for the sentimental book carrier that I am, and this whole book just being about how important memories are, it was like, this book was like written for me in so many ways. Every single like thing was about, she wanted them to remember. She wanted, and referencing memories. And so to me, it was like, man, it was beautiful. I loved looking at a story from that perspective.
Yeah.
I totally went off topic from whatever we were talking about, but I didn't want to like forget. I was like, I want to make sure I sneak those parts in.
No, thank you, Becca, for bringing that up and how it ties like to your personal life, because it's so interesting. And I think this is what's so great about reading, because we all have our own like life experiences that we experience like as we're reading, because like that to me, it didn't like whenever you said lunch memory, I was like, what lunch memory? Like it didn't stand out to me like it did for you, but it's so beautiful to hear like how for you, like it did stand out and it did like touch your heart in that way. And I think that speaks to like the beauty of reading. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody can take something from some book and it can rock your world and not mean anything to the next person. That's why not every book is for everybody.
But I do agree like with Abby Jimenez and like how she captures like the human experience so well. And like, speaking to that nostalgia and like the memories and touching those core memories. And yeah, I would agree with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of like how she writes such real life things, real life memories, real life things that you can relate to, how did we feel about her writing more just like real life issues, real life problems when it came to their relationship versus just like the swooning, miscommunication, like the things that we normally see that are a little bit more up and down in books. But this was just more like just real life, like long distance difficulties. Did we like it, or was it not deep enough for us?
The way that she built conflict was so interesting because she did so with the relationship and, like you said, realistic ways, right? It's not realistic to be able to spend all this money to constantly visit your long distance relationship, right? And then on top of that, our main character is dealing with the dementia and dealing with being a caregiver for her mother. And so it was like, it was like one heartbreak after the other. Like I'm hurting because they can't see each other, because Xavier is working himself to the bone and running himself ragged. And so there's that conflict. And then, but also she's got so much going on too with being a caregiver for her mom, um, re, you know, establishing that family dynamic because she's been gone for so long,
Right.
with her dad and her grandma and her siblings. It was so emotional. It was such an emotional roller coaster. And it made those times that they got to spend together just even that much more special. Because yeah, I loved the pacing. I'll say the pacing of, we have the heartbreak and then we have the personal, being the caregiver, and then, but then in between you get those little bits of those little highs of them actually getting to see each other. But man, it's like for a day, even when they got to see each other, they barely got to see each other.
I know.
Yeah.
I loved the point that you made about how unrealistic it is, like to be able to spend the amount of money to visit. And I felt like writing a male lead character that isn't wealthy is risky. Not in that it shouldn't be done, but just that in today's time, like so many girls are like, if you don't have money, like I don't want, I think somebody said, so I watched a TikTok where it was this girl like doing like street interviews, and she was walking up to girls like, would you rather date a poor man or a short man? And every single person said short. Not that it's like, not that you should neither one of those things should matter if you really love the person, right? But it was like, to write a male character, I think it so easily could have been like, oh, like I don't like that he doesn't have whatever. But one, she wrote him so well, and two, it's so realistic, like as to why he doesn't have money, why he has to work as much as he does, and the sacrifices that he made to still go see Samantha, even with the little that he had. I just thought that was it was a risky but a great representation of that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it being risky, but yeah, you're so right, Becca. Especially in our economy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so realistic.
It's real.
Yes. And that's what I was going to point out too. If you think doctor, it's like, oh, you immediately assume that they're going to be wealthy or rich, but it's so true in real life. Like you don't realize like how much cost it takes up front, and how for real in real life, you're dealing with like student loans, and for Xavier, it was like a lot of the clinic costs too. But yeah, I liked how she it's kind of like shining a light on like the realities of the finances of doctors and starting a clinic, starting a business.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no, go ahead.
Yeah. And Xavier too, he had so much at stake as well. Like that, it just built so much even more so into the conflict, because he had everything going on with his parents and wanting to please them and be a people pleaser because of all the things he went through in childhood, of the abuse.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I was like, well, it makes so much sense that he can't just uproot his life and go with her as much as he really wanted to.
Right.
It just, oh, my heart is like, my heart's feeling heavy right now.
Oh, well, they end up together. Spoiler. I know. They end up together. It's okay. It all works out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But yes, but Yeah, I mean his pride definitely, was his downfall there for a while. He wanted to prove them wrong. He didn't want to please them. He wanted to make them, sad, make them like kick themselves for ever treating him that way or saying that he couldn't. And so he was just prideful. And yeah, so I just think that it was such a risky like lead character with all like the billionaire tropes and things that are out there right now and are so popular. She went the complete opposite direction, and I loved Xavier that much more for it. So, which means he was written really well. So,
yeah, I loved him too. So I want to say one more point, and this is where I'm going to bring in my first critique. Talking about like the real my first critique, isn't it? Well, it's something light. Chill, it's fine.
She softened me up at the beginning saying she liked it. I thought we were going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
First of how many critiques, away. Angela?
I'm ready to argue.
Yeah,
For our audio only listeners, I'm fixing my hair. I'm ready. Go ahead.
Yes, y'all give me y'all's perspective. But yeah, no, it speaks to what you all were just talking about like Xavier and like all of the trauma that he went through. I think Samantha asked him, how were they terrible to you, or how were they abusive? And he says in all the ways, physical, mentally, emotionally. And yeah, like we hear bits and pieces of it, but it was like so much abuse. I'm like, somebody who, in my mind, I'm like, is it really realistic? Like somebody who's experienced that much abuse, do they actually turn out to be like the golden retriever boyfriend type? And I know it kind of speaks to it. Like he was so reserved because of that. Like he kind of was grumpy. He thinks a lot of people are terrible people because of that. And so it speaks to the trauma in that way. But I'm like, and there were so many examples of him also being like emotionally mature or intelligent. I'm like, is that real? So I had to like suspend my my disbelief a little bit with him. I'm like, he's a little bit too good for experiencing supposedly that much trauma. Like the whole bit about his poor dog, his childhood dog, and like the way what his dad did, like that is so traumatic. Especially,
yes,
I think at any age that would be traumatic to see, but like to experience that as a child, like that, those kind of things mark you and kind of stay with you. It's just,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think, and here I come to Xavier's defense. Well, that's why I think I saw him definitely as less prideful, more vulnerable, more people pleaser. I think that the trauma really went into that, leaned more into the people pleasing, because he sacrificed a lot. Like he didn't eat. He wouldn't even eat. He worked he built it. To me, it was like he was dealing with his trauma by being a workaholic. If I work and if I hyper focus on this one thing that traumatized me as a child, then I can work away all of that stuff and I don't even have to think about it and process it. And I'm sure that would be something that they would come to, have to discuss in their relationship. Like, we need to unpack like exactly everything you've been through, Xavier. But it's like, to me, I see him as like he overcompensates for a lot, and so no, he doesn't want to be like his dad. Let me lean into this workaholic type character. That's kind of what I saw. But
yeah, I saw him less as like a golden retriever. I feel like he was the black cat and Samantha was the golden retriever. And I think that, he did have to, I think that he, whenever he first saw her, of course, he like instantly was attracted to her. Right. And then like, as, he kind of saw these different, her trying to raise the money for the cat or whatever. And then her coming back in, he was like, okay, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. Right. And like, yes, that is a little like, it was a little bit, I feel like he jumped the gun easier than maybe somebody who was supposedly more reserved. I think it speaks to how like deeply he was just drawn to her. And also, they mention a lot about how his friend's family kind of took him in. And
right.
Abby always does a really good job about, this is going to be a series. And so I think we'll probably see more of his friends and his friends' family. And I do think that if he hadn't have had that and his like friend support, he probably would be a lot more screwed up than he was. But maybe because he had like a found family outside of his parents, that maybe they kind of got him through some of those times and were able to give him some grounding that maybe he didn't get from his parents. But, you know, all of that to say, this is also, you know, like I think of it like a Netflix movie. Like, it's not going to be as deep, you know, as in terms of that. And so, like, I understand, like, it may be a little thin, knowing that he went through so much trauma to be able to be so emotionally and stuff available. But I do think that they probably reference the friend and like all of that to kind of bridge that gap a little bit, to give you some like, oh, okay, well, that's how he ended up being somewhat okay, you know?
Yeah.
So,
no, yeah. And I think that's very valid.
I was going to say, Angela, I do see your point. I see your point.
You don't have to roll your eyes at her.
I see your point in that, like, you know, he's essentially perfect. So there's really his only flaw is that he works too much. He's not willing to let it go. Right. And the moment he decides to let it go is when he gets that full circle healing moment with the doctor. And because up until then, he was like, no, I'm going to continue just like working myself ragged and being sick, traveling while I'm sick. Like, I'm going to keep doing that and hurting myself because I don't care about me being hurt. I'm going to sacrifice everything for others. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. It was just, I think maybe what?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think maybe if the trauma wasn't as severe, then maybe I would believe it a little bit more. Even like the whole, he had an eye condition, and like all through life or all through his school years, he couldn't really read. I'm like, that really like gets to you. Even like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, all those things combined. I was like,
I just agree with you. For it to not come out at all in the book, really.
Yeah.
For nothing to come out, aside from him being a workaholic and not leaving the practice, we didn't really see any ramifications of all of that trauma.
Yeah, how terrible the mom was with that one conversation. How like narcissistic she was and stuff. Like,
yes.
like
get over it. You're not over all that yet?
Yeah,
we're gonna die soon. You should get over it. We're gonna be dead soon. Excuse me?
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I get it. I just choose to ignore it, I guess. Like, or that, you know, like, it's like, it's okay that it's a little thin, I guess. Like, it's, and I think, like, the themes, like, the other themes in the book are already, like, heavy, that maybe, like, if we had dove too deep into that aspect of it, it may have just been, like, a darker book. On top of it would have been, like, probably twice as long, I think, like, if they had to overcome that as well. So maybe she just shouldn't have made it so
severe, I think.
So severe. But, you know, like, but he had to have such severe trauma to have such a prideful reason to want to prove them wrong, that they even had
I think
even
a narcissistic mom and like that conversation is enough. Like, she's telling you need to get over whatever they did and it wasn't wrong, or it was for whatever she said. I can't even remember. I feel like having a narcissistic mother like that is enough to like be prideful of like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And
yeah I don't know. I was fine with it.
I mean, this is where I had to like suspend my, isn't it called suspend my disbelief, right? And I was just like going with it. I'm like, that is my one critique, that she shouldn't have gone that severe with the trauma because he was so perfect. But but it's fine. Xavier's great. I love him.
Cassandra's like mean mugging you that you're even like trying to give a critique. But yes, moving on from Angela's unnecessary critique.
We know what we're getting ourselves into, okay? It's a contemporary feel-good romance.
Okay, don't make the trauma so severe then. That's all I'm saying.
Let's move on.
He had to have a reason to get him to stay.
That's fine. That's fine. Like, you can do all that. Like I said.
Well, how else?
With that conversation is plenty. I would have been like, yeah, your mom is terrible. Like, you stay there for as long as you need. Yeah,
we don't need all the other dog
drowning
stuff.
Puppies and witnessing multiple times.
But that's how we got to. That's how we got to know Hank.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's how we got to
that's
his
valid.
reason for
Yes.
leaving.
That's valid.
You know what?
Yes.
Maybe Xavier.
This is where the mean
people
mugging
are all
comes
different,
from.
right? People are made differently. Some people can handle trauma and things better than other people, and maybe he just is the exception when it comes to like, no, if somebody went through that trauma, they would not be that good of a person. Well, he's the exception. How about that?
Right.
Okay,
He's the exception, and we accept it.
He's the exception, and we
Play
accept
on words
him.
for
With
you.
my suspension of disbelief. Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on because we're just going to have to agree to disagree on that. Okay. While we're talking about hard things, right? Like things that are deep, let's talk a little bit about the dementia aspect of the book. You know, Samantha's relationship with her mom, the mention of dementia being a theme in the book, her having to be a caregiver. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts and how y'all felt like it was presented in the book.
Do you want to start, Angela?
Sure. Yeah. No, I will just say that I loved it. I thought it was done really well, especially just how it ties. I know we spoke about this earlier, how it ties to memories and the title of the book and everything. It's just done so well. And I think that's like the message of the book, right? Is like how important memories are and how you should, cherish them and make memories. So I love the whole aspect of that. And I personally don't have any experience with dementia. I mean, I know the basics of it, but I think from what I read, like it seemed very realistic and very I know she even speaks in like the acknowledgments about how she thanks people that she visited to interview about dementia. And so it seems like she did her research, and I don't personally know, but it seems like it was written well and like researched well to portray it well.
Yeah. I also don't have any experience with caregiving for someone with dementia or anything like that, but I will say that in a different way, I think she captured it so well, just because my grandmother from my mom's side had a brain aneurysm, and she had lots of similar qualities to what was happening to Samantha's mom in the book. All of these things I didn't even realize, I didn't even remember. All of these things that I witnessed were things that I witnessed as a child. And my mom was the caregiver for my grandmother. We would always go visit, and it was kind of that same thing where she remembered me, and she had like a snapshot of what she remembered about me. She would always say that I couldn't hear very well because I had tubes in my ears as a kid. And, for several years, I was like, yeah, I got the tubes out. I got the tubes out. Don't worry. Yeah, I got the tubes out. But she had that memory, even to, just all of the small details of her forgetting that she was hungry. That was another thing with my grandmother. She would always steal food off of our plates because she thought she was still hungry, because she would just forget. So her memory processing was not there. And I didn't even think that was something that was going to come up while reading. And I just was like really amazed at how she captured it, and how I was like, it just took me back to that time in my life. Yeah, I think she did such a beautiful job with it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it was very respectfully done.
Yes.
I think that it wasn't cliche. I think that it wasn't written from the perspective of like, oh, I want to put something sad in this book. Let's throw some dementia in here. Like, no, it was represented in a way that, and I think so many people have either people that they know or parents that are like dealing with dementia. My grandmother just this past 2 years passed away from dementia, and it was very similar. I wasn't as close with her like day to day as Samantha, of course, was with her mom, but it was very like forgetting to eat and slowly forgetting names and just kind of watching, and it is like it kind of like takes your breath away to not know whenever you walk in if this person that helped raise you is going to know who you are, and the heartbreak that comes with that. And so I always say that when my dad was still here, whenever my grandma was first diagnosed, she wasn't showing too many signs yet, but she was starting to show some, so they took her to get like checked out. They found out that she had like early onset dementia, and then my dad, I remember he like spiraled because he was like, I can't imagine my mom not knowing who I am. And so when my dad passed, before my grandma did, and really before my grandma even got bad, or the dementia was, so far set, my dad's sisters, my aunts, and we always talk about, like, I think that was a blessing that my dad didn't have to see that, because I don't know if he would have been able to handle it, because it is like so hard to see like a parent or a grandparent go through something like that. And so I feel like it was captured so well. I feel like being a caregiver as a kid, like seeing their dynamic of the family, like showing how hard it really is. Like, this is not like, oh, I'm going to quit my job so I can stay home and take care, and like, this is going to be easy. No, like, it is so difficult. And I was a caregiver for my mom before she passed, when she was going through the grief of losing my dad, plus being diagnosed with breast cancer, and the chemo and everything just really, she went into kidney failure and had all sorts of health issues, heart failure. So she just ended up having a plethora of issues. Granted, I didn't have to luckily deal with her ever not knowing who I was. I don't know how I would have been able to handle that, but I did have the experience of being a caregiver for my mom. So there were so many parts of this book that I was just like, man, and I would have to like stop and put it down and kind of like take a beat, because it was like, this is just too close for comfort. Like, I think one of the parts that really for me was resonated with me was how, like, her mom, used to always be done up. She used to always have her makeup done. She used to always have her hair done, and then now she's just kind of like this shell of a person of who she used to be. And that's like, I know whenever my mom got to a certain point, it was just like, she stopped dyeing her hair. She stopped wearing makeup. She stopped this. And it's like a different version of the mom that I had my whole life. And that, like, for anybody who's a caregiver for their parents and seeing just that different version of them is heart-wrenching, on top of the daily just physical and mental load that you take on with that. So I think that it was just done beautifully from a firsthand experience. And so many parts of this book I resonate with, but man, being a caregiver for your mom, trying to find that balance with your family, trying to delegate responsibilities. Yeah, it was done perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that it was also represented with like the different sides, like, this is how Tristan handled it. This is how dad handled it. This is how grandma handled it. Even grandma, that's got to be heartbreaking too, for the grandma to have to take care of her child and see,
Yes.
There were just so many, the way that she described, and you could feel every single, even to the sister going through a divorce, like you saw all of the parts, and you saw everybody had their own things they were going through in their life. But hey, guess what? Life's.
Right.
And I know that, you're just trying to get through this divorce, but you still got this going on. It's just real and raw. And the way that she was able to capture that was just like, I have no words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really done well. And yeah, no, I completely agree with the both of you. And I think she captures maybe even things we don't immediately think about. I think, Becca, like what you said about the makeup and the hair and being a shell of a person. And it's like, you don't immediately think about that when it comes to caregiving, but it's so true. Like, it's so real. And that I imagine a lot of people go through whenever they have to be cared for. Even showing everyone sharing the load and sharing the responsibilities and for whatever makes sense for the person. I think they had to work through it a little bit, but whenever Tristan was like, the dad needed a break, which I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts about, but the dad needed a break. So it's like, he wasn't getting much sleep, and it's like, oh, Tristan is a night owl, so why don't you take over like a little bit of the night shift, and then dad can take over. The way that they could each contribute, they kind of were able to work through that and make it work as a family to fulfill mom's wishes about like not going to a nursing home. So I thought that was done well too.
Yeah. It's so real. It's so real. I mean, I just remember like my mom, getting to the point to where, I was still working at that time. I was pregnant for part of it and then had just had Rose when, like right before she passed, and just kind of having to bring my aunt in and like, I need help taking to appointments. I need help like getting some sleep. Like I need you to come help me stay. Like, cause she didn't walk well. And so like she needed help to get up to go to the bathroom and things like that. I mean, it was just like, it was so much. And you love this person so deeply, but you also are trying to like, in a way, kind of like, preserve your own sanity. And just like at the end where she was like, okay, like if I'm not going to get help, like she has to go to a facility, like for my own sanity, like she has to. And then seeing like, okay, like they were able to come to that resolution and like work out or whatever, but it does get to the point to where there were times too where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know if I can, and that's real. That's a real thought and family communication that happens probably in every situation like that. And so just so relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely was concerned there for a minute that, they weren't going to be able to take care of her and that they were going to have to put her in a nursing home. I really thought that it was leading in that direction. And I was like, man, I just can't, I don't know. Like it was getting almost too hard.
Yeah.
But then Abby Jimenez, the way that she, finished out the story, even with, Xavier coming back, and this is why I was like, I teared up at the end because Xavier comes back and they find out that he's staying or something, and they bring up the color. I loved that throughout the entire thing, talking about the color was there. I brought color into his life, and how the mom, maybe she didn't quite know exactly everything that was going on, but she saw the love, and just for a little moment, she could see the color. And y'all, like, I was like, oh my god, and then that was it.
I actually have a part of the book highlighted talking about the color that I have pulled up right now. I thought we would read it for those that this might not be fresh on their mind if you haven't read it super recently. I wondered if the dementia felt like walking through a gray version of the world, and then all of a sudden a bright blue car from your youth appears and you know something again. You remember, and it's the only thing in color. Right now, my world was also a little gray. The last time I saw color was that night in the escape room. The promise of something can be so vibrant, and everything feels so dull after it's gone. I was just like, ugh, like it's just a perfect representation, like the perfect representation of what those memories that pop up feel like. They do feel like color. And so I loved that part. So thank you, Cassandra, for mentioning the color again, because I wanted to make sure to read that quote because that was one of my absolute favorites. But yeah, I think that she did it so well. I absolutely loved it. I loved that she can take something so hard and so raw and still be one of like the funniest books that I've read. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's talent right there. But I think she does a perfect job of balancing humor and heartbreak. So yeah. Anything else that we want to talk about the dementia aspect of it?
Well, I just wanted to add to the color conversation the line where she says, "Love is the brightest color in a gray world."
Yes.
She said she used it on me somewhere,
right? She used that phrase so many times, just in such a wonderful way to just, I don't know. It was beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
I do have one more thought.
Yeah.
It brings me to my second critique.
Oh. See, I was like, how many critiques does Angela have?
I know. When she said the first, she's like, this is my first critique last time. I was like, oh no.
It's funny. But it's along the same lines. But, they had a big old family meeting because it was like really, really hard. And like they weren't talking to each other. And like the whole dad situation was going on about, which I'm still curious.
We're gonna talk about him next. But yes.
Okay. So, but yeah, that whole family meeting and the way they were basically they resolved everything and they came to an agreement and they were able to work together again. It just felt a little unrealistic to me. And maybe this is stereotypical and maybe I shouldn't say this, but like there's a stereotype that Latino families that they can hold grudges for like ever. That once they stop talking to each other, that they spend years like not talking to each other, like decades even. And it's like a whole pride thing rooted in like the Latino culture. And so it was just felt a little bit unrealistic that they were able to work through that so well. Like that would have probably in real life taken like, I don't know, a year or a couple months at least of like family therapy. Like, let's work through this. Let's learn to talk about these emotions and work through the emotions and then like finally come to an agreement. And so I had to like suspend my disbelief a little bit with that too, of like how well. But again, this is a contemporary romance. This is, it's supposed to be more feel good. It's not supposed to be so deep. But that's my
Cassandra. Yeah. So anyway,
No.
yeah, no. She's like, yeah, that's right. You just proved your own point wrong.
No.
No,
that is so real. Such a real critique. That is definitely, there's some relatives that I don't speak to, just in solidarity with my family, and
Yes.
it's just it's a real thing. And you know what? It's especially when it comes to loved ones passing, the grudges come out, and it's such an emotional time where, you know what, maybe I don't speak to that family anymore because that person was the person that was holding us together to even still continue to our relationship.
It's just like, so I can see that. Yeah, like I can see in the generation, like maybe an older generation and so, but like at this point, they're all still like in their 20s and 30s and they're younger and they have a tighter family dynamic. So I can see where, but I feel like once you get older and like you're more spread apart, you're married off, you're whatever, like you're all in your own houses, having separate discussions and things and phone and whatever. And that's where like the things get stirred up. But I feel like with them, it's like they all live in the same house. They're all still younger and things can probably get swept under the rug and moved on past a little bit easier. I was like, yeah, that's exactly like, because I was kind of like, well, finally, like they're having a discussion and moving on.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't feel rushed. To me, it felt like, okay, because I think it was like 3 months later, like they finally talked it out.
Yeah,
or
they
whatever.
held many grudges.
Yeah, and I think that for that age and that like family dynamic, that's appropriate or what I would expect. But I don't know, maybe I'm just putting too much of like a personal how I would handle it or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also the Latino culture.
Yeah.
And the fact that dad, so maybe can we get into dad? And
yeah,
I'm curious.
I want to talk a little bit about the side characters. Sometimes I feel like we skip past those in our book reviews just because we have so much other content to talk about. So I made sure to put a separate little section on our outline today because I feel like the side characters in this book, they were just so good. So I wanted to make sure that we took time. And of course, the first one that comes to mind is the dad and the controversy I think that comes with dad. How y'all felt about it coming out at the end that he was seeing somebody.
So essentially he was like, what? And it was like in the middle of the night too. He was what?
Yeah.
What was he doing? And we never got clarity as to what exactly he was doing. I'm like, my mind is going everywhere. Does he have a relationship? Is he just sleeping around? Like what's going on?
Yeah. Yes.
So I had a lot of questions. And on the other hand, I could see what Abby, I think, was trying to do in terms of showing like how hard caregiving is and how much caregiver burnout can happen and how have to, I guess, do things to maintain your sanity and your life essentially. And it spoke about dad, what he wasn't sleeping, he wasn't doing anything, he was just working and then taking care of mom, and it was just a really, really hard life. So I think it was speaking to that part of the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, immediately when he said, you don't understand, you don't know what it's like.
I have it pulled up. I can read his explanation if we want a refresher.
Go for it.
Sure. Okay, so Tristan says, I don't like that you're effing around. And it wasn't an attack. He was just trying to talk about it. It was a long moment before Dad replied. Sometimes the way we love someone changes with the seasons of our lives, Dad said. Sometimes love and commitment look like caring for the person you're married to by feeding them and putting on their pajamas and brushing their teeth. I will love your mother until the day I die. I will whisper her name with my last breath. He choked on the words, and I had to swallow a lump in my throat. I'm not looking to replace her. I could never replace her. I just need something in my life that isn't this. He raised his eyes to Tristan. There is no bad guy here, Tristan, he said, his voice thick. I know it would make it easier if there was, but there's not. So he doesn't say, like, is it a relationship? Is he just hooking up with people? Is he, what is he really doing? Yeah, so we don't really get clarity on that. I hated it so much. That's like that is my only critique of this story. It's real. I think, like you said, like burnout happens, and I can't speak from personal experience of, I've never been in this situation. I don't know, what that would be like but like I am of the belief personally that, like, if my husband were to pass away, God forbid, like, that would be the worst thing in the world, but I don't think I could ever marry again. And so it's like, for me to think that even if he did ever leave me, like, I can't imagine if he was still here, no matter what version of that it was, and still, like, seeing somebody else, or so to me, it took a little bit away from, like, the soulmate, like, love no matter what, in sickness and in health. It took something from that for me. And I part of me kind of wished that Samantha had a little bit more of an issue with it. Like, she was just kind of like, I can't judge him. It's like Tristan obviously had a bigger issue with it, but we didn't get his POV. So I didn't really get that depth of what he really was thinking. But I don't know. I just feel like it deflated their relationship and, like, love for each other a little bit.
And that's another piece of, like, why I think the family conflict was resolved a little bit too well for me and too fast, was because of dad. I'm like, that's a big issue. Fair. I was like, that's a big issue, like witnessing and sort of having to accept your dad doing whatever, and him not even being clear about what exactly he's doing while your mom is the way she is. So I think that's what added to me too.
Yes. And I think also, like, she went too fast. Like, they were too forgiving for the fact that it was one of the times that her dad left the back door open, that her mom got out. It's when her mom would be crying out for him and whatever, whenever he would just be gone. It's like, where was the accountability of upsetting her so much, and, like, not just being honest with your family of where I'm going or what I need outside of this? And in that time, like, I need you to be watching out for her, because just because she's sleeping, like, people still need to know that somebody needs to be watching out for her. So yeah, I was upset about that. I was like, he got off way too easy for that.
Yeah. Cassandra, do you have thoughts? You're kind of quiet on this topic.
I think I was along the same lines as Samantha. I will say, like, personally, I don't, like, initially I'm a Tristan, but at the end of the day, like, there's so much about dad that we don't get to see and we don't get to understand, and how long he's been going through this with her. He's been on this journey with his wife longer than the children have been, and he's been shouldering a lot more. So do I forgive it? No. But can I understand where it came from? Yes. And can I understand where the mess ups happened? Yes, because he had been shouldering so much of it, and he had been hiding that secret that grandma had that heart disease. And I mean, there was just so much that was into play that it's hard for me to say, like, yay or nay. It would break my heart for, like, my significant other to do that while I'm sick. But it's one of those situations where, like, that's where I was, like, relating to Samantha. I was like, well, I've never been in that situation. So would I know exactly what I would do? No, I don't know. So can I judge him for that? Not really, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat, Cassandra. And I just want to say that I'm honestly a little surprised that that's your take.
Really?
Yes, I think because you're the hopeless romantic and kind of like
Yeah.
hopeless romantic being, like your one and only true love.
I appreciated the way the family had such a different way of how they coped with what was going on. And, him not being perfect, that coming out, I think that is something that it's just realistic. And again, would I want that to happen? No. But I think that I don't know. You can't say like I was of who was it that it was Samantha. It was like you can't judge him. You don't know what he's been through. He's made mistakes, but we're just not perfect. We're not perfect human beings. And I appreciated that take, if that makes sense. Just getting to see that perspective because life is messy. And again, like I said, would I want them to would I want my significant other to do that? Absolutely not. But
Yeah.
I cannot judge him. I don't know what that's like. What do? You get into the affairs, you get into the drugs, you go into alcoholism, what you could easily spiral into something. And to me it would be really unrealistic to not get anything like that. Any sort of perspective from that. In that situation, for it being such a difficult thing. Because really, if you talk about Tristan, I mean, what did we see from him? It was hurting him, but where were his flaws? He wasn't there sometimes. Well, guess what? If he's not there sometimes, what's the dad going to do? He's got to just keep going, going, going. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. It's a morally gray thing. It's
yeah. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just such a hard situation.
Okay, let's talk about favorite side characters. Rapid fire, go, and why.
All right, my favorite side characters were Xavier's coworkers, Tina and Maggie. I love them.
Yes.
Okay, especially shout out to the audiobook. Oh, and I totally meant to look up the voice actor.
I can tell you who the voice actor is.
Okay, yes, who's the voice actor?
So I'm so glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up. The voice actor is Matt Lanter. And for those of you that don't know, Matt Lanter is an actor. You could probably see him on the remake of 90210 that came out to the CW. This is to my millennial ladies out there.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking him up right now because
caught up with that.
I loved that show.
And it's going to bite me in the butt if that's not the show, but I'm pretty sure that's the show.
So he's a legit actor.
He's an actor. Mm-hmm.
That's
Did you
him?
know? Did you know? Yeah, that's him.
You looked him up, Becca?
Yes.
I love him. Oh my gosh, he plays the bad boy.
Who?
Yeah.
The surfer. Oh my gosh.
Matt Lanter. Yeah, was very the looker of the show.
I think that just shows like how big this book was if they got like an actual actor to do the audio.
She always has like phenomenal audiobooks.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I love there was one chapter and he like voice acts out the coworkers, Tina and Maggie, I think it was. I mean, it's a little cheesy, but actually I loved it. He did such a good job, I thought. I mean, he like exaggerated it a little bit, but I think that's what made
exaggerated
it so
a lot.
Yeah. That's what made it so good and so fun. I think
I was like, is this the way you think women speak? So
but it just reminded me because aren't they like middle aged? They're like a little bit older than
yes, because they worked with Hank before they worked with him.
Yeah. So yeah, the one chapter where they're like, wait, but are y'all like exclusive? Like, did you ask her? It's like, you should probably ask her. And then he goes, and I love that part where he like confirms, like, hey, are we dating or like, are we girlfriend and boyfriend? And he felt so much joy and so much from like being boyfriend, girlfriend. And it was so sweet and it was so cute. But yeah, those are my favorite side characters.
I loved them too. I loved that they fed him and like kind of like took care of him.
Yeah.
I thought that was really sweet. Yeah. Yes. Cassandra,
I don't know if I have a favorite side character, really. I love the office ladies. I actually also loved his friends too. I know we didn't get very much time with his friends, but I just loved how they came in clutch throughout the book where, you know, he needed an idea to extend the date,
Mm-hmm.
and they orchestrated it so they could see him on this date. I thought
I
that was
loved
so
it.
funny.
Yes. Well, you know, the next books will be about them. I think Chris is the one that we're getting next. His friend Chris is going to be the next book.
Is that the
That's
pharmacist?
cool.
The pharmacist,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So
that's exciting because I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed how supportive they were of him going, you know, and living with her. So
yes.
I loved them. Also, I mean, shout out to Tristan. Really not much. He's just like a tried and true, like just a real one. Just always just being realistic, passionate emotions, leads with his emotions and his heart, and just always being right. When he was always right about, you know, he's like, oh, well, what was it? Because he knew that he loved her. He was
that it was going to be
conference.
a date.
Yeah.
Or that there was no conference. Or
There
that
was
he
no
wasn't
conference.
going to the conference. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how about you?
Hank is
Hank
my favorite. Oh my gosh.
I was like, are we going to talk about Hank? I'm glad you said that. What do you love about Hank?
I love that he is like a walking example that, you know, idle hands are the devil's playground. You know, he just wanted to work. He knew that working was good for him. It kept him able, it kept him up, it kept him going. And I love that. I think that, you know, we've talked so much about Abby Jimenez's like work ethic, showing Xavier's work ethic. So I love that that's, you know, Samantha's even, you know, work was an important part of her life. And so I think Abby Jimenez just like, that's kind of who she is. And I think that it just shines through in her characters. And I love that because I think it is important. I think it is important to always have something that is fulfilling for you, because that's the quickest way that you could just like lose your mind. And so I loved that it represented that. I love that it tied back to Hank being the vet that really changed his life, Xavier's life. It is the whole reason Xavier became a vet. I loved that he came in so clutch, and because Hank was willing to be there and to work, that Xavier was able to get some rest, and he was able to go visit Samantha. And like, without Hank, none of this would have been possible. None of it would have happened. And he provided that parental figure and the wisdom that Xavier really needed to hear. You know, that like, you're only going to have this chance once. Like, this type of love doesn't come around again. If you have it, none of this other stuff matters. Like, who are you really doing this for? Yeah. Are you doing it for yourself? Are you really doing it for your parents? You know, and it's like, he needed somebody to have that parental wisdom, and Hank provided that for him. Hank was the whole reason that this whole book happened. I mean, really, you know. And so yeah, I loved Hank. He's the best.
He had the perfect. He had that redeeming, you know, a soulmate character quality of, you know, that she is my tried and true. She will always be my love. If I could go back, there's nothing that would stop me from being with her. So you can't get that time back. So what are you doing?
Right.
You know, just perfect. There's the hopeless romantic.
Yes. Our Hank is our hopeless romantic.
He was a treasure.
Yes.
That must be protected.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was good. I love hearing about the side characters, giving them a little spotlight. Let's kind of start to wrap things up and kind of final thoughts. Is there anything about the book that, I know, Angela, you've already mentioned it, you're not allowed to speak anymore about it, but is there anything that you would change? Is there anything that didn't sit right with you? Any critiques?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think there's anything I haven't said.
Or if you could rewrite one moment, would you? And why?
I have thoughts. So there's one.
I already said you're not allowed to speak anymore. If you tear apart this book anymore, I'm going to be very upset. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, it's a compliment / critique. So highlighting moments that she did it well, and then one cringy moment. That's it. That's one cringy moment.
Oh, we have a cringy moment.
Yes. Okay. So this kind of speaks to the fact that she wrote a Hispanic Latino family, and but I think she did it overall relatively well, because sometimes even like some TV shows or some movies that try to essentially pander to like the Hispanic Latino community culture, they kind of over exaggerate and they overdo it, and it's cheesy, and it's like that doesn't actually happen. So she didn't do that. There was one thing that she kind of mentioned and I really liked because it's not really common and it was like so subtle, but she just said that Xavier this was when he was going to visit Samantha. The way she described it was so unique too. She said that he got some flowers from the street vendor, some guy that was selling on the corner, and from roses from a white bucket. So, and like typically they do have a white bucket and they're selling roses on the side of the street or the stoplight or whatever. But it felt really natural and it wasn't like too overdone or too loud where it was like too cliche. But on that same note, I do think she could have left out another comment. I think it was when Tristan said something about flaming hot Cheetos, about the kitten eating flaming hot Cheetos or something. I don't know. And I rolled my eyes at that one. I was like, okay, that was a little bit too much. Like that's a little bit too cliche. Like you didn't mention any sort of snacks at any other point in the book.
Right.
So that's my little, just a super tiny cringe moment. I'm like, we could have done without that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to talk about, I was like, please don't talk about that. I thought you were going to mention the part at the end where they stopped at the place to get a concha.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember that part.
Just like grandma would want to stop and get it. Was it a concha? I feel like it was a concha.
A sweet bread. Yeah. But but that wasn't cringy to me.
I was like, okay, I was like, please don't say that because I liked that part.
Yeah, no, I like that
I thought that was sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that part too. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of a single part that I would rewrite. I think that
the dad,
would probably be it. I'm but I feel like people who maybe have that family, like somebody in their family dealing with dementia or they probably have a better understanding of somebody getting like to that point. And so that's why, I want to be respectful of, anybody who maybe has had a family member that has like dealt with the situation in that way. I can't speak on it because I'm not, so I want to be respectful of that. But it broke my heart when I read it. So I think that would be one thing that maybe I would hope didn't happen. But Abby she does such a great job with like those kind of moments that you think like whenever we thought like, oh, they're going to put the mom in a home or, oh, they're going to whatever, or, oh, here comes a miscommunication or here like comes like a, like, oh, like, no, like we just need to break up because I just like, this is just too hard. Like I'm killing you by doing this. I'm doing whatever. Like, it's like we almost like we're about to maybe get to a point that's going to completely shatter us. And Abby like saves us from that heartbreak. Like we never quite get that. And that's what I love about her books because they deal with hard things, but they're low stakes, like emotionally in terms of like, she's not going to pull the rug out from underneath you. And that's comforting to know. So I wouldn't change anything. I think that the ups and the downs were exactly what they needed to be. So,
I agree.
But I did want to mention, I don't know, Cassandra, you have the same version that I do, but Angela, I know did you get this in the back of your book, a note from Abby?
Acknowledgement? Or what is it? A note from Abby? No, at the end? No.
Yeah.
Or maybe I didn't look through it.
So for those that maybe read on Kindle, I wanted to read this because I think that it's interesting. It gives a little bit of perspective. And then we can cut this if we feel like it's making everything too long. But it says, hello, readers. I need to start by saying that I love this book. I love all my books, but this one just hits differently for me. When you write a book, you're going to read it a lot, many, many more times than you want to. I never got tired of coming back to Samantha and Xavier. I looked forward to every passive edit so I could spend time with them again. It was one of those stories that just flowed out of me and came into existence pretty much as you're about to read it. I loved it from page 1 to the end. In writing this book, I decided to reach into my past and use my own recollections of growing up in Southern California when creating the world of Samantha's family. I moved to Glendale when I was 7, and I lived in California for the next 25 years. The house that Samantha lives in is my grandparents' house, and the 1966 Dodge Dart that she drives is the car I was given by my grandfather when I was 16. I drove it for 2 adventurous years, and every single thing that happens to Samantha in that vehicle happened to me, and then some. It was fun to relive some of those experiences by giving them to Samantha, and I hope you get a chuckle out of it. The glug glug system does work. I'm so thrilled that the exclusive Target edition of this book features an illustration of the car on the reverse side of the jacket. I recently bought a vintage Dart and have been having a ton of fun going down memory lane with it. I've already been towed twice. So I just think, like, for those that don't know, that I think that so much of the authenticity that comes from her writing is because I think she does, and why we can relate to so many stories and they feel just so like, oh, I've lived something similar to that. Like, that feels so real, is because she put so much of her own personal experiences into these books. And that's what I loved about it. I loved that that was all something that she really, like, that's why it's so vivid, because it was real. And so, just for those that maybe read on the Kindle and didn't have that information, I wanted to make sure that you knew that. So,
yeah, no, that's awesome. I love it. I think, yeah, it speaks to her writing and like how I think you've said it before, Becca, something that authors say, like, write what you know. And I think that's exactly what she does. And it just shows up in how well she writes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to give a shout out to our Instagram friend. Their handle is @music4a-book-pod. It's a fellow book podcast. So hi, ladies. I asked for comments on what their thoughts are on Say You'll Remember Me. And they said, we both love the emotional depth like usual. We wish they had more happiness together.
Oh, so true.
Yes. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, shout out to you guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, definitely wish that we saw more happiness, but grateful they got their happy endings. Well, this has been so fun. I love contemporary romance. I love Abby Jimenez, so covering this book has just been a blast. So we're going to end with our signature question. Is this a book that we would carry with pride? Is it something we would maybe just keep on our bookshelf, or would we gift it to somebody that might enjoy it more than ourselves? So I'll start with you, Angela. What's your answer?
For me, like I said, this was my first contemporary romance, my first Abby Jimenez, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. But my answer is gonna be similar to my Binding 13 answer. I'm gonna be a mood reader. I think this book would be perfect if I want like a low drama, low stakes, just fun, comfortable, perfect book boyfriend. Then this book was it for that. So I'm going to keep this book on the shelf though, because it was enjoyable. It was an enjoyable experience. And I'm looking forward to reading more of Abby Jimenez's work.
Well, Cassandra, what's your answer?
I, on the other hand, could carry this book. I'm going to carry this book. And I just want to shout out Abby Jimenez. Wonderful depiction of their first date, the ups and the downs, the wanting to prolong the date, and the way that they went to an escape room of all places. I loved that. I'm an escape room fiend, so that just instantly spoke to me, and it is holding a special place in my heart. I also do think this is something that I could go back and read and just enjoy it in the same way, and pick up on some things that maybe I just didn't pick up on. So I think the readability is there, and that's why I am carrying this book. And I echo that, Angela. I am excited to read more Abby Jimenez. With this being my first, I am so excited to see what else she's got. So, carrying.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's a shock I would carry this one. This has been probably my favorite read so far this year. It's a 5-star for me. I think it spoke so deeply to me on so many levels. It was nostalgic in the right places. It depicted and explained certain, things that I've gone through in my life so vividly and so well. It was humorous and also woven just it takes a lot for me to break out a highlighter when I'm reading a book. I'm not a big fan of writing in my books. I'll tab sometimes, but I actually physically highlighted some things in this book. Quotes and words. And it's just, I think for anybody who is a sentimental person at heart, this book was made for us. And so I absolutely loved it. Definitely my favorite read so far this year. So
Yes.
Do you think it's her best one so far since you've read other Abby Jimenez?
Yes. Yeah. It's my favorite one so far. Yeah.
Love it.
I don't think I wouldn't say because of the writing or anything. I think that all of them have similar level of writing and storytelling abilities. I think this is my favorite because of the animal advocacy aspect of it, the being a caretaker aspect. So I think for me, it's my favorite. But that's not to say it's written better, I guess, is the best answer for that. Like, some people probably like other ones more. This one just personally hit completely different for me. So
makes sense.
So yeah,
I see that.
Carry it with pride and with love. So so yeah. So any final thoughts?
No, keep rocking it, Abby Jimenez.
Keep rocking it. Yes. I will say I did love one final thought, I guess, that she just plugged in her bakery.
Oh yes, I'm so glad you brought that up.
I thought that was just so cute. And there would be, I feel like, some authors that I would be like, come on. But for some reason, I loved it when she did it. So I thought it was cute.
Yes, absolutely. To be able to do that, to be able to plug that.
Yeah, she's a business mastermind.
That's awesome.
For sure.
Yes. And I think that I was going to say, I'm so glad you brought that up, Becca, because I had a thought too. Like, I'm so glad we do our intro episodes where we talk about the author and learn about them, because I feel like you get those Easter eggs. Because if I didn't know, and I didn't know before our intro episode about the baking and everything that she went, she had going on. So I would have totally missed that. So I love that we do that too.
Yeah. I will say too, another thing that y'all didn't catch because y'all didn't read it, but her Just for the Summer, her release that came out last year, there's a dog in that book and his name is Brad. And Brad shows up in this book just in a conversation that they're having. They're talking about, like, he's like, oh yeah, you won't believe this, like, dog that I just saw, his name is Brad. And she's like, oh my gosh, I love like dogs with regular human names. And it's just so funny because Brad is from the last book. So she interweaves. So that's why, like, it would be so fun, like, if you really just wanted to take time to dive in and just like start from the beginning. All her Easter eggs, they just all come in and out, and it's nothing that like you have to read to understand, but when it does come up, you kind of are like, oh, haha, like, gives you a little chuckle. So
I love that.
But I read this book in 24 hours. Like, I flew through this book. And I don't do that much unless it's like real good or like a thriller and I have to find out what's going on. But this was just something I absolutely loved. So
yeah.
Yay. Okay.
Good pick.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. We will be back in 2 weeks announcing our next read. And so definitely be sure to check in, but also follow our socials. You can find us everywhere: Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and we'll keep you updated there as well. And plenty of content, then stuff that you can find from us there. But we appreciate every like, comment, subscription, everything. You can also find us on YouTube if you want to subscribe to us there. We see them all, we love them all, and we love you guys. So thank you, book carriers, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Book Carriers.
We hope you enjoyed diving into this week's read with us as much as we did.
Thank you so much for joining us on this literary adventure. Your support means the world to us.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to follow us on social media for updates, behind-the-scene fun, and more bookish content.
And if you're feeling generous, please rate our podcast 5 stars. Your reviews help other book carriers find us and join our growing community.
Remember, we'll be back with a new episode every week, catching up on our latest read.
Until next time, keep reading and living those amazing stories.
Bye for now.
Happy reading.
I've been called to the pages.